Just released is the UDR7. That's right, Ubiquiti has finally released a much anticipated update for the very popular Dream Router, aka the R2 Dream 2. The UDR7 has the same cylindrical form factor, but this time there's a Wi-Fi 7 access point on top, along with some other nice upgrades. Now I cannot wait to get this thing out of the box, so let's get started. Ubiquiti comes out with new network equipment at an unbelievably fast pace, which is confusing if you're looking to upgrade your network, but you're not sure which equipment is right for you. Well, that's where Rogue Support can help. Our team of network experts will listen to your needs and come up with the best solution for your home, your business, and your wallet. It's super easy to get started. Simply head on over to rogue.support, follow the wizard to open up a new ticket, and you're gonna start receiving offers from our friendly expert technicians. We've already helped hundreds of customers with their network and wireless needs, including Rick, who said, "Rogue Support and Jorge were there for me. I don't say that lightly. With a quick online session, Jorge analyzed my issues and came to a quick conclusion as to what I need." And Jorge, or JB as we like to call him, is just one of the amazing techs we have at Rogue Support. So when you're looking for a complete redesign, if you're stuck on an issue, or if you're looking for the best practice recommendations to keep your network running smoothly, look no further than Rogue Support. You won't be disappointed. All right, let's get this thing out of the box, and you can see that there's a little pull tab on the bottom here, so we'll start there. And nice packaging as usual from Ubiquiti. On the side here, we've got some accessories, power cable, and one of these little Ubiquiti tools, and looks like a quick start guide or something, and that's it. And then here is the UDR itself. The UDR7 is a unified gateway that has both Unify OS and Unify Network on board. Now that means that you don't need a separate cloud key or a separate Unify Network controller. Everything is built right in. Around the back, we've got 4 2.5 gigabit RJ45 ports, one of which supports PoE output to power up another access point or a VoIP phone or a surveillance camera, something like that. It also has a 10 gigabit SFP plus slot. And since you've got a plethora of ports in the back here, you can choose whether to run your internet off of RJ45 or the 10 gigabit SFP plus port, and you can even do dual WAN with this device, and we're gonna take a look at that when we get it set up. Down here below the ports, we have a micro SD card for additional storage. Now, typically, this is gonna be used for Unify Protect footage, which is probably fine for like 1 or 2 cameras, but beyond that, you're gonna want a better NVR solution like the UNVR, which has more storage capacity with 3.5-inch drives, and you get that hard drive redundancy. One of the coolest things about these Dream routers is that they have Wi-Fi built in. This one being the latest generation Wi-Fi 7. But the biggest question that I'm sure you're all wondering is, does it work with the 3D printed R2D2 feet that I've been using with the original UDR for a couple of years now? Well, let's go ahead and try that out. All right, I think I'm gonna do this Indiana Jones style here. Biffed it. All right, so yeah, it's the same exact form factor as the older ones, with a couple of differences. Now, in the older one, of course, the WAN port was a single gigabit RJ45, whereas we have that 10 gigabit SFP plus here, as well as dual WAN, because the fourth port down, the fourth RJ45 port down below is labeled as a WAN port. And it looks like they changed the location of the micro SD card slot. It's below the ports on the new one. On the old one, though, it was actually above the ports. And it looks like it has the exact same little display on the front. Let's go ahead and get this thing plugged in and fired up. Okay, so the solid white light on top here means that we are ready for adoption. I have opened up the app, and we are going to say set up. All right, Dream Router 7. Let's give ourselves a Wi-Fi. Okay, we'll say next. Now it's gonna go ahead and run a speed test. I do have internet connected through the 2.5 gigabit RJ45 port on the back. So it's gonna be plenty powerful for my internet connection, which is less than a gigabit. And it's showing us 932 down by 237 up. That's actually pretty good. Next. Okay, setting up UniFi OS, configuring your device and network settings. And down at the bottom, we can see a counter that says there's about 1 minute and 40 seconds left. So we're gonna turn off the camera and we will come back when this is ready to go. Okay, the UDR7 is fully online and I've updated it to UniFi OS version 4.1.1.4 and network version 9.0.110, which are considered early access versions as of the recording of this video. Let me show you how I have the UDR7 configured. I have two internet connections. I have a Comcast business cable connection that's plugged into port 4. That is sort of the standard RJ45 WAN port, or the default RJ45 WAN port. And then I reconfigured port 3 as a secondary WAN, and I have the T-Mobile home internet gateway plugged into port 3. So there's my dual WAN. Both of them are 2.5 gigabit RJ45 ports. So then what about the SFP Plus port? That, by default, is the second WAN, but I have reconfigured it to be a LAN port so that I can do a 10 gig DAC cable out to the Minis Forum MS01 where I'm running an open speed test server, and that has negotiated at full 10 gigabit on the LAN. I have a second Minis Forum server. This is the MSA1. That has 2.5 gigabit connectivity. I have that plugged into port 2. And then I have my laptop here wired in to port 1. So I am using all of the ports in the back of the UDR7. Let's take a look at how it looks in UniFi here. So here we can see WAN 1, WAN 2. And if I click on devices and I open up the Dream router, we can see that all of my ports are in use. The second port, which is plugged into that Minis Forum MSA1, is negotiated at 2.5 gigabit. And the SFP is negotiated at full 10 gigabit. Let's take a look at our WAN options for the UDR7. So if I click on settings and then I go to internet, at the top here we can see my primary and secondary WAN. Below that, however, we can configure which ports are set as WAN 1 and WAN 2. And with the UDR7, you can choose between ports 3 and 4, which are 2.5 gigabit RJ45 ports, and you can also select port 5, which is the 10 gigabit SFP Plus port. In my case here, I'm using port 4 as primary WAN, port 3 as secondary WAN for my T-Mobile home internet connection, and that leaves port 5, the SFP Plus port, as a LAN port, which currently I have plugged into the MS01 server, which is running open speed test. Okay, so that being said, let's go ahead and run a few speed tests. I'm going to start with a full 2.5 gigabit wire speed test. This is going to be from the MSA1 wired into the UDR7, and then wired out that SFP Plus with a DAC cable into the MS01, which has 10 gigabit. And that is running on this screen right here. In fact, let me get my second camera ready to go. And we're going to say start. And very quickly, I can already see that we are getting full 2.5 gigabit wire speed through the UDR7. And our speed test ended up with 2460.2 down and 2493.7 up. All right, let's do another test on my laptop here. I'm going to run that same test, keeping in mind that my laptop is 1 gigabit connected through the UDR, because my little Ethernet adapter on the laptop here is only a single gigabit Ethernet adapter. So let's go ahead and hit start again. I would expect to see speeds up to 990 something as we're running this speed test. Okay, there we go. So we ended up with a 984.6 down and 980.7 up. So essentially full gigabit wire speed from my laptop over through the UDR into the MS01 with the 10 gigabit NIC. All right, quick costume change here. No, in all seriousness, when I originally recorded my wireless test through the UDR7, I forgot to max out the channel width, which is of course how you're gonna get the highest bandwidth from any wireless device. So now I have set the channel width in the 5 gigahertz frequency to 240 megahertz, and I've set the channel width in the 6 gigahertz frequency to a whopping 320 megahertz. So those are very wide channels that allow for a lot of bandwidth back and forth between the access point and any wireless client. So let's run some wireless speed tests. I have an iPhone 13 Pro Max. This is a 2x2 Wi-Fi 6 antenna inside of this phone. It is wirelessly connected to the UDR7, and then I'm running it across to the speed test server running on the Minis Forum MSO1, which is 10 gigabit DAC connected to the same UDR7. All right, we're gonna say start. And that speed test ended up with 760.8 down by 792.0 up. And moving on right here, I have the Google Pixel 8, which is a 2x2 Wi-Fi 7 antenna inside this phone. And same setup, connected through the UDR7 and then out to that 10 gigabit DAC connected MSO1. Let's go ahead and say start. Okay, and so with Wi-Fi 7 and that massive 320 megahertz channel width, we ended up with 1740.5 down by 1867.7 up. That's pretty impressive. So there you have it, a first look at the new UDR7 from Ubiquiti. Now I have a feeling that this is going to be a really hot item, so if you see it in stock, I would definitely grab one before they're sold out. And just like the previous generation Dream Router, I think this is a great device for multiple situations. For anyone who's looking to get into the world of unified networking, this is a great little all-in-one unit that is not only great on its own, but you can also still expand it with more access points. You can add some Protect surveillance or unified talk phones. And as an IT guy, this would be a great device to deploy at my parents' house or for a small business that I'm administering, because it's a nice compact form factor and you don't need to run any wires all over the place for additional switches or access points. But you do still have the option to do that if you want. Now, as of the recording of this video, I haven't yet seen what the price of the UDR7 is going to be, but I'm sure by the time you're watching this, that will be out on the product page. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching, and if you'd like to keep this party going, I've hand-selected a couple of videos on the right here for you to watch next. The top video is my UniFi Basics initial setup video, which you're going to want to watch if you buy one of these UDR7s. And the bottom video is how we installed a full UniFi network for an 1800s era silver mining ghost town.